began. They were, I don't know if you're able to see it, this moment of that descent, that jump out of that capsule. What do you think is next? After something like this, you know, what is the next challenge for space exploration, for science, for experimentation of this level?
Well, I think as we were talking about, this experiment, this jump, was very relevant for pressure suit development. So this will lead to better pressure suits. You see that he was actually relatively flexible in that suit. That's one thing we struggle with pressure suits is how do you keep enough pressure in there and design soft goods and everything else such that you minimize volume changes when you move your arms and legs, and to let the person be somewhat flexible without, you know, so you don't have to work too hard against the suit. And I think this is part of what's going to come out of this kind of work. The next, so the next level, as you say, is maybe going to be the more not boring certainly, but it's going to be the stepwise progression of improving existing suits and designing new suits. You know, it's not necessarily going to be another jump at a higher altitude, but you know, producing operational suits out of what is learned here, or better operational suits.
And Leroy, so we're seeing in its entirety now, the entire jump. Earlier we cut away from portions of the jump for obvious reasons, but now we were able to show it, knowing that it was successful in the end, and Felix Baumgartner landing on his feet. But there was a moment there, perhaps you saw, where he was spinning, and seemingly spinning kind of out of control. Is that the kind of moment that would automatically, or perhaps would be a prelude to that automatic release of that emergency chute?
Well, yeah, the spinning certainly was a concern. You know, the concerns mostly were some kind of a breach of the suit of the capsule, some kind of a, you know, the spinning getting out of control, and you did see him spin there on the way down. Fortunately, he got it under control pretty quickly, and that's a testament to his skills as a skydiver.
And so it really would have been up to him to try to regain that kind of control?
Yes, because, you know, he's the one that's able to control the aerodynamics by moving his arms and his legs and his body the way that he knows as an experienced skydiver to try to get himself under control, even though this would be the first time he's done it from that altitude at such low air density. But as you saw, he was able to quickly get himself under control.
Oh my goodness, how does one train for that?
Well, I mean, he's a very experienced skydiver, so, you know, he's learned from all of his lower skydives how to control his body in the air and you know, go change directions, change orientations, change attitudes. And so all that comes into place, you know, a little bit like flying an airplane, but this time you're flying yourself.
Incredible. Chad Myers, you and I are seeing this for the first time now, the entire jump, because for obvious reasons, out of an abundance of caution, we did not show this portion of the jump. Folks got to see the beginning when he made his descent, and they got to see the end when he was essentially jogging, you know, onto the ground there. What are your impressions now of seeing this kind of descent, and even that moment of spinning out of control? But then you heard Leroy there say that was that great skydiving training that allowed him to get his body back in control.
Yeah, we watched his descent speed rise all the way to what I thought 724, somewhere in there. And then when the descent started to slow, that's when his body was hitting air molecules in the atmosphere. That's when there started to be air there. And that's when the tumbling took place. In the first 20 seconds, there was nothing for him to deflect. There was no way for him really to turn over, to flip over, to dive, because there were no, even if he used all of his hand surfaces and his legs, there's nothing there. There are no molecules up there for him to deflect. But when he started to slow down, that's when the tumble started to occur, and that's when I got very concerned. And obviously he could use his hand surfaces, he used his legs, he used the body for all the free fall that he has learned over his base jumping and his plane jumping and his career, and that literally, well, other than the drone shoot, that saved his life. That experience saved him because he knew what to do.
Really did. All right, and here's the chute opening there. He was able to make the pulls on that chute and make the rest of his descent there extraordinary. Chad Myers, thanks so much, and you're going to stick around. We're going to bring people up to speed now on all the news, including this taking place. Leroy Chow, a former NASA astronaut, thanks so much. We're going to talk with you again in a matter of minutes. So again, you're now looking at images that were taken less than 30 minutes ago, Felix Baumgartner, as he was making his descent from 23 miles above the earth in a free-fall fashion before he was able to hit the right place in the atmosphere and have the wherewithal to open his chute, and there is the descent there on the horizon before he was able to finally land on his feet just about 45 miles away from Roswell, New Mexico, where this mission began for him early this morning. Incredible feat here. Still unclear whether he was able to break that record and become the first human to break that sound barrier. We do know that he has already set a record, being the first human to go the highest one has ever gone in a manned balloon. That we know. And there's this picture of his mom right there. Earlier she was in tears during his ascent into space, and now much relief from Mom Ava there. The first time she's actually left Europe, and there in Roswell, New Mexico, to eyewitness this slice of history. This was not a NASA project, this is a commercial project. Many of the people who were part of this mission formerly worked with NASA. Pretty incredible stuff we've been watching this afternoon. We want to bring you up to date on two very important stories that we continue to follow. This, the Felix Baumgartner place in history, and we also want to report to you on this very sad note, the death of one of the most prominent politicians to serve in the U.S. Senate, Arlen Specter. The veteran Pennsylvania lawmaker died today.